let's talk about offline Apex. I just saw that I have a wrong date in here, but just let's go. First, who am I? I'm Philipp Hartenfeller. I'm from Düsseldorf, Germany, and I'm doing Apex since 2016. I've been a consultant for 7 years in Germany, but recently switched to United Codes, where I'm now looking for extending Oracle Apex as a product lead. And yeah, falls in the same scheme as this topic. And I also mostly love doing web development and databases. Of course, Apex fits nicely into this as well as this offline extension. You can find me on social media, on my blog, or yeah, anywhere online. I'm an Oracle Ace Pro, and let's start with the content. So, what's this talk actually about? And yeah, offline Apex is not something very new. It's actually been around for quite some while. Vincent Monod, he's now in the Apex team, actually has a nice blog series about it. I think it's from 2019 or somewhat in that area, so it's nothing brand new. But yeah, I'm more interested in like, no, not is it possible, but I think how it should be accessible to developers. And that's what I'm going to show. Yeah, how should it be accessible to developers? I think it should fall in the same way that Apex is doing it. So a low-code interface, no JavaScript code wrangling, dumping huge loads of JavaScript into your pages. And the solution for that is, of course, Apex plugins. And it should be like easy to configure. So basically, enter your query and let's go. Your app should be offline ready. How should it work? It should be quite fast. Should be able to handle lots of data, not just a few €100. I'm thinking of thousands of rows, maybe billions. Also, like one complexity with offline Apex or general offline apps is you still have the central database, your source of truth. Like if users do changes on the clients, they need to be processes to merge them back, so they will get merged into the Oracle database at a later point, and also the concept should be somewhat future-proof. And quite a warning here, I show you some demos that already work, but this is a proof of concept. I just developed this for myself. You can take it, it's open source, but no guarantees, safe harbor. So yeah, let's just jump in. So I actually have a demo app here, and so this is just the main page, but let's look at what I actually did in the app. And first off, I added some plugins. So if we go to the shared components, and let's make that bigger, I have like a few plugins installed. I also have progressive web apps enabled, and I also added a custom service worker here. Service worker, what this is, more for that later, but that's something we need. And then we can already start. I also installed some tables and packages, of course. And I have on the main homepage, I have a dynamic action on page load called sync offline data. And this calls some plugins called sync offline data. And then I have a mode here, define storage. And as I told you, I just wanted to enter a query. And that's what I did here. I just have some ingredients table and I query some columns for it. Also this weird formatting here for the updated add column. I give it a name, basically an identifier, and a version. Versioning is also supported. I say which of these columns is my primary key column, and I say what is the last change column. That's something I actually need to know what changes are the latest, and more on that later. But that's also the reason why I have to do this transform in the query. That's actually transforming the date to a Unix timestamp. Thing is like only Oracle can handle or has this date column type. The storage I'm using doesn't understand it, so I need to transform it. I also have a setting rows to fetch per request. This is just to optimize. If you have like a table with huge amounts of data, you can lower it. And this means like pagination. So when I synchronize, I ask for all the rows. And if the table would be like thousands of rows, I don't ask for all the thousands rows. I just ask for the first 500, then the next one, etc. And I have a timeout here, so I won't synchronize every time I load the page. I will just have a timeout for 60 minutes to not cause so much traffic for the database, and also synchronizing takes time. Okay, so now so what is actually when I reload? Nothing, because this timeout actually doesn't run, but I have it does something else. I have this button here that forces another synchronization, and when I click this, I actually get like some feedback here. Synchronization is done, perfect. So what we can do now, I open my browser DevTools, go to network, and in here, make that bigger, I can say this app is now offline. Also, we get this nice info here, but of course I can't pull the plug, then I wouldn't be in the webinar anymore. But yeah, this app has no internet connection currently. I can still go to another page, fine. I even see some data. This is some kind of recipe app. I can open it up and I can even change this. Save. And you can see it changed. I can reload it, loading again, and it's still changed. So yeah, how is this possible? Again, I think I need to enable the connection again, right? Oh no, Page Designer still does work. Okay. So I still here this list is still is again an plugin offline data list, and what I give it again is like a storage ID and a version, so it knows where the data is lying. Then I have a small function to show which column name to show. In this case, it's just this ingredient name, and some configuration options. Interestingly here, filled item with ID on selection, and basically when I click on something here, this will fill P2 ing ID with the value of the primary key in here. And I have a dynamic action on that. So first it's going to open this drawer, and also it will run this another plugin, offline form utils, and this will basically fill the form here with the data for my offline storage. I know this is overwhelming what I just showed you, but I just wanted to get you general feel. I have a more in-depth talk or session about how to build such an app, and I show you how you can access this later. But let's jump back to the presentation. No, this is here. And now let's go a little bit in the theoretical stuff behind that. And also, like, if you have any questions at any points, I think you can just type them in and I can answer them on the go. Okay. So how far can an offline go? And this is a thing, like, there are different levels of offline. Currently, Apex has something implemented already. I would say this is level 1. And this is just a custom offline page. So it doesn't help you anything. It's just a nicer way of telling you are offline. Then there's level 2, and this is basically caching static content. This is HTML pages and assets. This allows us already to navigate around offline, but the thing is, like, components like classic report, interactive report, etc. When you click something, you filter something, it's going to need the connection to the database to really show the results. So yeah, no interactivity basically, and that's level 2. And 3 and 4 you can separate with this. Reading and writing is basically the whole app should work the same as when you are online. And in this stage, you need to bring the data to the client, because yeah, when you have pagination, you need to, of course, refetch some values and yeah, show it to the user. And yeah, this is what my solution implements, basically level 4. So how would you approach something like this? I'm building heavily on plugins. Why is that? Because I don't like to interfere much with what's going on in the background. I have a colleague from my old employer, MT, who like reverse engineered some sort of the interactive grid to fetch or intercept all the messages sent to the server when offline, so he can like then go to his offline storage and mangle around that and like fake it that you're online so the internet active grid will still work. But I hate doing that. I like to have the full control. That's why I developed own plugins. This has advantages, this has disadvantages. Yeah, also what I want to do is I want to have SQL also available offline. So we are all relational guys, I guess. So that's something we want. It has advantages like we can reuse statements that we have already in our Oracle database. SQL is super performant. It has analytical functions that allow us to make nice queries about our data. And SQL is also great, or like relational data models are great for data integrity. Then you have to think about your data access strategies, and there are basically two options. The first one is online first, and that's basically you do a check every time. If I am online, I will just go to the Oracle database because I have a connection, I can go to it, and only if I'm offline, I go to my offline storage. And this has advantages. For example, when I'm online, I have the normal Apex feeling. You get less data conflicts. Data conflicts meaning that two users that are offline at the same time change the same row. So you need like a Git conflict. You need to figure out which is now the truth. And if you're online, you have Apex locking, etc. Also, you see live data every time. You just connect to the central database. But the disadvantages are there's so much logic for like the consumers, meaning like the regions where you enter and view data to every time check, am I online currently or am I offline? So I go there or do I go there? And also the question is, offline is actually not a Boolean 1 or 0. There are actually cases like you have an unreliable connection, like losing internet every few seconds, or you have just really slow connections. In these cases, you rather want the offline storage as well. And so the other approach is offline first, and basically you always either, if you're online, go to your offline data storage and they just sync when you're online. And pros are basically opposite, but also it's reliable, so doesn't matter how fast your internet is or slow. It's actually faster to load your data from your own device memory than from the internet, of course, and less logic for me for building the plugins. Disadvantages: this only updates after having a sync, so it's not live data. Even if you're offline, you can see you don't see the record your colleague just updated, and you will, I guess, have more conflicts because the synchronizations happen only periodically. So my solution for that is actually build different experience for different use cases. So what you can do is you can build two apps. So if you have workers that are field technicians, for example, that do go somewhere where there's no internet connection, give them the offline app, the offline first app. And if you have some office workers who always has internet, give them an online first app. So you just separate the worlds a little bit. And online app means just normal Apex. So let's jump a little bit more into technical implementation. And so storage, so we need some place to store the data that we download to the client, right? So first thing is, or some options are local storage. Local storage is a key value object store. It's rather slow and also designed for small amounts of data, so I disregarded that pretty fast. Then there's web SQL, and this sounds nice, right? It's SQL, perfect, but it's deprecated, so also nothing for us. And then there's IndexedDB. I think that's the most popular one for storing data. And it's also designed for larger amounts of data. It supports transactions with it, which is nice. And it's a key value object store, so no relational, but but there are a few hiccups with it. So it has a rather complex API. So it's not just SQL. There are like libraries on top of it which make it easier, but still no support for complex queries, so no analytical functions, etc. It has a history of nasty bugs, and also it's not asset compliant, which is bad. You want to, be sure that the data never gets corrupted. In a world where the next thing I show you wouldn't exist, I think I would go just with IndexedDB and it would be somewhat fine. But luckily, we have a different option, and this is SQLite. And I got aware of this from this tweet from the Chrome developers, and it basically says that they deprecated WebSQL, and in favor they want to bring SQLite to the web with WebAssembly. So first, what is actually SQLite? SQLite is actually pretty important. It's most used database in the world. Sorry, it's not Oracle, it's SQLite. And it's a top 5 most deployed software ever. Yeah, with an estimate of 1 trillion active databases. So why is that? SQLite runs everywhere, like 100 times on your phone, on your TV, on your microwave, maybe your washing machine. It's a standard file format, basically. And it supports full-featured SQL, so analytical functions. It's serverless, and with that I don't mean the cloud thing with serverless functions. I mean that unlike Oracle, where you have the database server and you connect with clients to it, SQLite runs inside the program using it. So it's less than dependency of a program, starts with it, and then you have just one file where it stores the data. It's transactional, it's completely asset compliant, so you can't break your data, even with power outages or something. It's public domain, so it's better than open source. Basically, it means everybody owns it. It's really, really fast, and I want to really emphasize this. This is it's faster than normal file storage because it's an optimized indexed database engine. Stores data in a single file, so like debugging, you can just copy a file, inspect it. I will show that later. And also, fun fact, it's a recommended storage format by the US Library of Congress. Yeah, so that sounds pretty cool, right? But how does it actually run in the browser? Like normally it runs like on your phone in just apps or like server software, and it wasn't able to run in the browser until like a few years ago. And this is because of WebAssembly. WebAssembly is basically an alternative to JavaScript, but you don't write it, you compile to WebAssembly. So it's a web language, and you can compile existing code to it. It's also very low level, so it's a little bit faster than JavaScript in some cases. And you also have, we also have the newer browser API called Origin Private File System. And this gives website a private file system they can write files to, like we're used to with normal operating systems. And we can use that for SQLite, so it gets run as WebAssembly code and then accesses this file storage format and can write the SQLite file to there. So just I'm going to show it to you how this is looking. So back in my app here, I can go into my browser tools, and I've installed an extension for Chrome called OPFS Explorer, and what this gives me just the ability in my dev tools to inspect the file system of this website. And what you can see here, we have like the main file, offline data.sqlite, and we have also a journal file. Journal file is used for this asset compliancy. It's a log file basically. So this is 130 kilobytes. I can click on it, I can download it, and then I can actually open it up. And what I get here now is like, I can see the database from my website. It's now on my computer, so it's like disconnected from my website as I downloaded the file. but I can see here I have a few tables on the left. For example, I have this meta table with basically some meta information I just store to make this all work. And importantly, I have this ingredients underscore v1 table, and we can see it's just all the data from my Oracle database stored here in my table. So yeah, it's SQLite. It's a SQL database, relational database. I can add primary keys, foreign keys, unique constraints, indexes, etc. And I can just, for example, query it. Select count star from ingredients v1, and I can see I have 28 rows in there. So yeah, that's that. Next is how fast is it? And yeah, I promised I want something that is fast. I have another small demo app here. And the interesting part about this app is, if we again look at the storage, this is 21 megabytes, this file, and this is like only the table data, so it's not images. And this movies storage has over 20,000 movies in there with like a description and so yeah, many values. And what I can do here, I can filter a year, so this is all happening on the client. Can filter by rating. I can maybe add something like action and only get like Matrix and more movies, Iron Giant. And it also supports, like, let me clear that filter, full text search, so I can just enter Corleone and only get the Godfather movies here. And yeah, it's just basically you don't get any difference than using the Oracle database. Like your device storage is pretty fast. So depends of course on the device. But for example, I have also tested that on my phone. I have a Pixel 6, which is somewhat of a medium phone. And yeah, of course, the UI is not really optimized for it, but you can see if I add some filters like sort, it takes like a second to load again. And in the bottom, there's pagination. Almost immediately, pretty snappy. So no issues with speed in SQLite, I would say. Okay, so I have these plugins that actually show the data, like the list or this table I just showed you. How do they get powered? And this plugin I use to set up the storage, this dynamic action plugin, what it additionally does is actually it creates some objects in the JavaScript window, and for each storage, for example, here I'm in movies version 1, I get functions like get row count, get rows, get row by primary key, write changes, etc. And with these I can like communicate back to the database also in a format that is later then mergeable. I also like support general queries to it, like read-only queries, so that you can join tables or use some analytical functions, for example. Okay, now to like actually the hardest part of this is like data synchronization. And it's hard because it should work in a way that it's all the complexity is hidden away, or at least the complexity that can be hidden. Some things still you have to figure out for yourself, unfortunately. Yeah, allowing users to edit data without a connection to the database has effects of decentralization. And decentralization is always a synonym for complexity. Because you still want your single source of truth. This is the Oracle database. And yeah, this basically results in new challenges for your data consistency. So what is actually happening in the background? First, I cache the HTML pages so that I can still navigate to them. Then I synchronize client changes with the database, meaning like any change I have done before, like writing some data, updating any recipe name, or for example, I send these immediately to the database before doing something else. And then I delete the rows on my side. Why do I delete the changes already? And that's one effect of like decentralization. Okay, my video just froze. I'm not sure. I think I'm still there. Okay. Yeah, I delete the rows on the client because it's now up to the database to decide, like, do I merge the changed or do I have some conflicts? And yeah, it's in control of the database. If it's not true, like if there is a conflict and it does not get merged, I then afterward get the current DB version of that row, and this can be confusing for one side, for the user just did the change, but on the other hand, it would be like also confusing if like what I see is not what the database is actually storing. Yeah, next step is actually synchronize DB changes with the client. So anything that somebody else has changed and that is not on my client yet, I send just the primary keys and the timestamps of the tables for each row. If I know the primary key and the timestamp matches, I have the current version of that row. If the primary key is unknown or the timestamp mismatches, I need to get that row, that full row, and either do an insert or an update to be up to date. Also, one part I messed up in my first versions is actually I also need to delete the rows that got deleted in the database, right? So I also store like every primary key that gets sent from the database in a table, and after receiving every row, I just compare, do I have like primary keys still that are not in the database anymore, so I need to remove them. Also, like what I forgot to mention for the cache current HTML page, like all the plugins use JavaScript and WebAssembly, and these also get cached with it thanks to the service worker. And so if I am offline, I can still initialize my storage because it's just JavaScript and the file is on my device. And if I, for example, filter something, it just runs JavaScript. That's again, it was cached. And then it interacts with my database and then again runs some JavaScript to change something on the UI. So I'm basically moving all the logic from the database to the client. Yeah, and if we then synchronize like client changes, somebody just edited a row and now wants to synchronize it back to the database, there are 3 potential outcomes. First one, easiest one, single client row update. So I just change the row, nobody else touches it. I just send it to the database. The database overrides the row. Perfect. Then the sequential client row updates. I change the row in the morning, synchronize it. In the afternoon, a colleague first synchronizes, so gets the update, then changes it, merges back, also fine, because he did his change on the base of the database version. And there's the conflicting one when concurrent client row updates, and this is when 2 people change the same row at the same time. And then, yeah, they don't know of each other's change, so they might like override some stuff. You could also like you can't merge both at the same time, so you have to first process the first change and then the other change, and that would maybe override something. So in these cases, you actually have conflicts. Yeah, my way of solving this is actually not directly to write to the source table, but I have a generic changes table, and it does store like storage ID and storage version to know like, okay, this is from the ingredients or people table. Then I have the data as a JSON, and I think like JSON support in Oracle is now pretty good, so that's a nice thing to do. I store if it's an insert, update, or delete, and then I store 2 timestamps. As these are changes, I have a timestamp from the time when the user did the change. And also I have a timestamp from when the user synchronized the rows, so the database current version timestamp the change is based on. Then I have audit calls and some import messages. For example, when there are conflicts, I can say it failed because of that. For example, also like unique constraints violations, etc. can still happen. Yeah, okay, so what happens when actually like a merge conflict does occur? First change come through, they always come through one after each other, because table locking, etc. But and this is like the point of the point of the Oracle database, not the client database. But like the Oracle database gets the first change, and there he gets the two timestamps. Again, the first timestamp is from the row version from the Oracle database, and the second one is when he made that change on his client. So I just compare that timestamp with the current row timestamp. And if that matches, I'm sure, okay, the user made the change on the latest version of that row. I can then write the changes to the table. And then what I do is I update the timestamp of the row version to this purple one. So I now, yeah, I have a new version. Of course, I need to update the version. In my case, it's the timestamp. Then the second one comes in. And he worked on the same version, so not on the purple one. He doesn't know of the purple change. So again, I do the check and I see, okay, in the meantime, there's actually a new version, the purple version, so I know there's a conflict here. And then I need to somehow manage this conflict. First solution would be just last bright wins. And yeah, this works, of course, but you will lose like changes. So in most cases, you won't want to use it. What you can do instead is like a manual merge. It's like Git. Sometimes you have these nasty conflicts, and in many times you need to manually resolve the conflicts. And I have like this is how I would do it. I have like an UI. I also prototyped it. You see both changes next to each other, and then you can just say, okay, in my after merge row, the final version, basically, I just accept this change and this change, for example, because this user fixed the last name and this user added an age. So I want Parker, the corrected one, and the age 23. And then I write to my database again, and the next synchronization, my clients get the final version of the row. Yeah, and I actually got something to show in that regard. I have this changes app, and this just shows like the data it was used for, some audit information, and also I have like some error messages, unhandled storage. That's some bug I had in my code. And interestingly, I have somewhere here, for example, unique constraint violations. These can still happen because, again, decentralization, somebody else adds a new row with a name that has a unique constraint on it. Another one does by accident or coincidentally the same. You will get a unique constraint in your Oracle database. And then you will also need to manually resolve these things. And then row outdated. Here I have like this UI, and I can say I want pumpkin, this one, and this one, for example. But it's just a mockup, not functional. Yeah, merge code, and for this merging, you need to actually write some code. So for example, this does happen automatically to get this row outdated information, like anytime a change does occur. And that is because I provide some packages where you need to hook in. So for example, I have this general sync row procedure, and there's currently, I'm not happy with that, but there's a huge case on the storage ID. Let me make that bigger actually. And the storage version, and then you can call your own procedure where you handle that. And own procedure, let me show some of these. And so this is the one to sync ingredients. What I get here is a JSON with the data of it, change type, insert, update, or delete, the date when it was changed, updated by, and I give out some information like, was the merge successful? If not, give a reason, and also sync device primary key. So if I insert a new row, I generate some primary key on the client. And because I can't use, for example, a sequence that's on the Oracle database, but like I want, after the insert, I may want to reuse my sequence. So I can just say, okay, on the device where it was synchronized, it was this primary key, but I now insert this with my sequence under this Oracle primary key. So I can later on just see where my data actually ended up. And yeah, so we just start here. So first I extract the information from the JSON. So I get JSON, get number, get string, get string. This is some work, but yeah. Then I do a case on the change type. So E is for insert. I just, in this case, get the sequence next val and set it to the DB primary key out parameter and set the device primary key also. And then I just do an insert on it. Done. Easy. Insert is easy in most cases. Update is problematic. So here I select the updated add from the tables to get the current raw version timestamp, and then I do the comparison. If the user has a change on the same raw version, then it's fine, I can do the update. Otherwise, I say, okay, here's an error, success is false, and I say fail reason is raw outdated and return. So then I know I have to fix it manually later. And delete is also straightforward. You can argue like when a user has updated a row and the other one has then deleted it, maybe you want to look at that. But I guess in most cases, just there's a reason to delete a row. So write it. Okay. Hope this was not too much information, but all right. Yeah, coming also already to the end of it. There's something I don't like and I haven't told you about yet, but you need to set additional headers in Apex. And these ones, cross-origin embedder policy and cross-origin opener policy. And these are actually security headers, so they are useful. They basically disallow any, if you have like some XSS, cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, these headers disallow these vulnerabilities to send your data to someone else. So it can never leave basically your origin of your domain. And yeah, why don't I like that you have to set them? Because there would be a way to set them directly in the Apex application. There is a section in security and they can add headers, but unfortunately there's a bug and you can't set them for plugin files. And that's an issue for me. They don't get applied there, and then this won't work. Just this SQLite database won't start at all. So you have to do a workaround. This is setting the headers in your web server proxy, for example, in the ORDS or like Nginx or Apache. And then it will work. But yeah, you have to do this manually, so you can't test this on apexoracle.com, for example. Also, I'm a little bit disappointed. This bug, I asked about it over a year ago. I talked to some of the Apex developers about it, and it doesn't get fixed. I'm hoping it will be there in 24.1 that I can finally like put a demo on apex.world, apex.oracle.com, but I'm not certain anymore that this is anything they have on the priority list. Also, like this is a proof of concept I told you, so there can be a lot of improvements. For example, data type handling. I don't really handle like normal dates where you would use a date picker or timestamps. Images or blob support is currently not implemented. I have actually one person using this and he asked me already about images, and yeah, that's just something, yeah, somebody has to implement into this. It's not automatically working by just querying a blob, unfortunately. One thing is like select lists actually get cached in HTML, so these work, but LOVs, like pop-up LOVs, etc., and anywhere else you can LOVs, they don't get cached via HTML. And also these are like database constructs. So for example, if you have like somewhere else in your app, like in form where you can add a value to an LOV, it would be nice when the LOV would be completely offline. So the next page you have like a checkbox on the LOV, checkbox group. Automatically there would be no entry. And yeah, this is pretty complex. I would basically rebuild features that Apex has on the client, and yeah, this is just complex. Also, I want to apply more table rules to the client. Foreign keys, for example, I'm not checking. Check constraints, indexes, defaults, etc. This would be really usable also to minimize like conflicts, or at least have the user get validation errors as soon as he like enters his data. I can improve on error messages, and yeah, of course I can always like build more cool plugins like faceted search, like a cards region, like support template components. But yeah, it's all work, unfortunately. Also, like I want to give you a warning. I want you to be cautious with like offline Apex, because you should really only want to use it when you need to. First thing is you lose authority over your data. So beforehand you have your data in the Oracle database, and there's no real direct access to it. You have only the clients like Apex, or if you give someone SQL developer credentials or access. But like I showed you, I just downloaded my SQLite file, and I can send it via email, post it anywhere, and the data is gone. You can still, like in the SQL queries, you can apply where conditions to only download the user specific data, but still it's easier than ever to like lose data. Yeah, merge conflicts, you will handle these a lot, I guess. And yeah, it's like you have to develop in a different fashion. They can't just take your existing online or normal Apex application and just click a button to make it offline. It's a different development approach with the plugins. It increases your overall complexity. I'm not sure, like scalability wise, if it's, I mean, from the client side, I'm sure it's fine. But if you have like hundreds of users synchronizing all the time, where you always send huge amounts of data, I think this will be like way more load than just normal Apex. And SQLite is only as fast as the device using it. So if you have like a smartphone from like a decade ago, it will also not work well. But I guess like Apex would also not work well, normal Apex. And yeah, this is a proof of concept, and I don't offer support for it unless you have a huge pile of money for me. But yeah, this is actually open source. I call it Apex Off Grid. It's on GitHub. You can just download the sample application I showed you there and test it out on your own environment. And yeah, just get started with it. I need to document more. I need to refactor, etc. It's a hobby project, so but if you want, take a look at it. But be cautious; it's a lot of JavaScript, of course, for the whole client stuff. And yeah, conclusion: I'm actually quite happy with the result. Plugins are pretty, or like for my ambitions, like I wanted to make it easily accessible for developers, and I think it is somewhat accessible with the plugins. You don't have to dump like lots of JavaScript into pages, and it's still the Apex low code approach of adding regions, adding dynamic actions, etc. And I'm also confident that SQLite is a perfect choice for this task. It's capable for a large amount of data. It's SQL. It is ACID compliant. So I think in the future, and like in other environments, you will see way more SQLite data storage options. And yeah, it has its overall great browser support. Every modern browser can use it. Like your iPhone, I think it needs to be like on the of last year's version to make this work, because some APIs were new, but nowadays if any updated device can use it. And also you can scan this QR code, and there you can try this demo app out for yourself. Just feel free to play around with it, change data, go offline. And if you find some bugs, please contact me. And yeah, thank you very much. If you're actually interested in learning more, as I told you in the beginning, I have a session on like live building an offline capable app. And this is actually at Kscope. So if you're there, really looking forward to it, you can come by. It's on Wednesday. And it would be nice if you say hi. Other than that, I also have another webinar, same talk, before that actually, Australian user group webinar. You can also come by there. Yeah, thank you very much for attending this. If you have any questions, please contact me via Twitter or go to my blog, hartenfeller.dev, and enjoy your day.